Ayo! Hello, Fantastics. It's Mr. Clintastic, here today with a Strixhaven School of Mages limited review. Today we'll be focusing on several card types, including modal double face cards, gold cards, and colorless and artifacts and lands. So we're gonna do this section by section. And this is quite a bit of cards today. So we're gonna hop right in. I've already done the mono colored cards: white, blue, black, red, and green. You can find it on my YouTube as well as my Facebook, Mr. Clintastic. Be sure to give a follow and a like, help my channel grow, and help me get exposed to more people. So yeah. So now we're gonna jump right into the modal double-faced cards. Here we have Augmenter Pugilist, 3-drop green, 1 generic 2 green troll druid, has trample. As long as you control 8 or more lands, Augmenter Pugilist gets 5/5. It's a 3/3. Okay, before we evaluate, let's turn over. This is a real nice feature here on Scryfall.com. Alright, we have Echoing Equation. It's a 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 blue. Sorcery. Choose target creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of it until end of turn, except those creatures aren't legendary if the chosen creature is legendary. Interesting. So we're going to start with the Pugilist, 3-drop and green. I think this is okay. This is serviceable. It's 3-drop for 3. I mean, it's a 3 power, 3 toughness for 3. Not 3-drop for 3. That's obvious. It has trample, which I think is very relevant. And then late game, it can give you a big boost in power that you don't even have to pay for. You just happen to have your 8 lands out. Boom, you have an 8/8 for 3. That's a lot of value. I'm going to rate this card pretty highly just with this. I'm leaning towards like a 3.5 or a 4. I think this is well above average, really. Just being a 3/3 trampler for 3, I think is amazing. So let's go to Echoing Equation. And I do think these modal double face cards, MDFCs, are gonna lean you in a certain color pair direction, and that's what I'm gonna be looking at when I evaluate and try to create some limited archetypes. So Echoing Equation, you choose target creatures you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of it until end turn, except those creatures aren't legendary, and if the chosen creature is legendary, well, yeah. I think that's interesting. It really depends on the creature you're gonna turn all your other creatures into. Like, say you have a creature and it's like, turn all your 1/1 dwarves into, give them all 1/1, and you have like 6 creatures on the board. You slam Echoing Equation, right? All your creatures get 1/1 6 times. Like, that's game winning. So yeah, I like this card a lot. Even in green blue, I think it's pretty cool. I'm gonna give this a 4. It could drop. It could drop, but this is a card that I would easily pick up first and not even be upset about. Next we have Blex Vexing Pest, a 3-drop, 2 generic and a green, legendary pest. Other pests, bats, insects, snakes, and spiders you control get 1/1. Okay, when Blex Vexing Pest dies, you gain 4 life. It's a 3/2. Let's go and turn it over. Search for Blex, 4-drop, 2 generic and 2 black sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put any number of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose 3 life for each card put into your hand this way. Okay, so I'm really liking this too. Of course it's mythic, right? But this can pump your pests. And I think that Pest is going to be an archetype that I at least try to play. I mean, come on. There's so many cards with that little Pest attachment to it. I think it's just going to be really fun to at least try to put together. It would be better if instead of just gaining you a life when they died, they gained you a life and made your opponent lose a life, but they gave us what they could give us. But anyway, going back to Bleck's Vexing Pest, a 3-drop 3/2. It's not bad. Pumps your other potential creatures. That's not bad. And when it dies, gains you 4 life. I think this is great. On the surface, I'm giving it a 3.5. I think it's well above average. And especially with the search for Blacks on the other side. A 4-drop in black that can give you cards in your hand. Granted, you're going to want to gain life, but if you have pests, if you're, like green-black pests or whatnot, and you're gaining life regardless, you're not going to care about losing a few life. I'm still going to I'm going to give this like a 3.5, and I really think this is a 3.75. Really? Like this on its own, I don't know if it's as good as a 3-drop trampler that can become an 8/8. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5 for now, and I think that could go up. Bleck's Vexing Pest. All right. Next we have Extras Auric Overlord, a 4-drop, 1 generic, 1 white, 2 black, legendary creature, human warlock with double strike. That's relevant because one of the Elder Dragons, the white-black Elder Dragon, I believe is a 2/5 double strike. So maybe that's something that white-black's gonna have going on. It has Magecraft, pretty sweet. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, return target non-legendary creature from your graveyard to your hand. It's a 2/4. I mean, okay, let's turn it over. On the other side, we have an 8-drop, a 6 generic, black and a red sorcery. Okay, so that makes this card what? Goodness, 3 colors. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. The spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature you sacrifice this way. Each opponent sacks a creature. Create a 3/6 black and red avatar creature token with haste, and whenever this creature attacks, it deals 3 damage to each opponent. Gee whiz! Okay, this card is instantly a 4. You're going to want to be in Mardu, which this is the type of card where I would think, like, okay, maybe Mardu is a potential color type. We got to see what our fixing is looking like. Extras Auric Overlord by itself is already good, being a 4-drop 2/4 double striker with Magecraft. That's already just A1. The Magecraft ability to get a non-legendary creature from your graveyard to your hand, that could be anything. Pretty much. You're not going to have a bunch of legendaries in your yard. So that's pretty sexy right there. And then Awaken the Blood avatar, my god. They could blow up your 3/6 or whatnot, but if they can't blow up your 3/6, whenever it attacks, it deals 3 damage to each opponent. This is ridiculous. Definitely first pickable. I'm gonna give it a 4.25. I think it's a little better than the Pugilist. Like, I would rather go with this card than the Pugilist, even though the Pugilist is probably easier to cast. I really like Extras Auric Overlord, and it's in a color pair, white-black, that I typically like to play in Limited. Next we have Flame Scroll Celebrant, a 2-drop, 1 generic and a red, human shaman. Whenever an opponent activates an ability that isn't a mana ability, Flame Scroll Celebrant deals 1 damage to that player. Okay, pay 2, 1 generic and a red, Flame Scroll Celebrant gets +2/+0 until end of turn. It's a 2/1. On the flip side, we have Revel in Silence, double white. Your opponents can't cast spells or activate Planeswalker abilities this turn. Exile Revel in Silence. Interesting text. It is double white. I'm not really high on this card. I'm going to put it in a 3.5. Simply being a 2-drop 2/1 that can pump, or is it called Fire Breathe, I believe. It's pretty potent because, like, say this is on the board, they have nothing out. You swing in, you pump in 4 mana, you're swinging for 6. So that's really good on its own. And if they happen to activate an ability that isn't a mountain ability, you're pinging. I like it. And the flip side, it's instant speed, but it's double white, which might not be a problem in your aggressive red-white decks. You know what? This is actually better than I'm thinking. Your opponents can't cast spells or activate Planeswalker, but like they can't cast anything in that turn. Red-white's really going to want to see this. I'm going to put this up to 3.75. I think this card is really amazing to have that that modal option. Like, I was just looking at the Planeswalker loyalty part, but the can't cast spells this turn. Like, oh, it's my turn. Whoa. Before you go crazy now, you can't cast spells. Yeah, I'm giving it a 3.75. I think Flame Scroll Celebrate is a definite reason to go into Boros. Next we have Jadzi, Oracle of Arcavios. It's an 8-drop, 6 generic and 2 blue. Legendary creature, human wizard. Discard a card, return Jadzi to its owner's hand. Okay, so it has a little protection behind it. It better for 8 mana. My goodness. Has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it by paying 1 rather than paying its mana cost. If it's a land card put onto the battlefield, this card is absolutely ridiculous. Wow. Granted, it's 8 mana. Its ability is silly. On the flip side, we have Journey to the Oracle. 2 generic, 2 green sorcery. You may put any number of lands from your hand onto the battlefield. Then, if you control 8 or more lands, you may discard a card. If you do, return Journey to the Oracle to its owner's hand. Wow. I mean, why would you want to put this back in your hand if you already like dumped all your lands? But maybe you want to use it to trigger Magecraft. Oh, yeah. You'd want to play this. Big brain in here. Big brainin'. You'd want to play this, dump all of your lands onto the board, and then play this guy after discarding the card and bouncing Journey to the Oracle back to your hand. This is 5. This is a 5. Now, I don't know if I probably forgot to say it in this video. I do rate the cards 1 through 5, 1 being pretty much unplayable, 5 being just absolute gasoline. And this is one of those gasoline cards here. Jadzi, Oracle of Arcavios. I'm not going to like saying it every time, but my goodness, that card is broken. That card is broken. And so we're already seeing 2 things in blue-green. You know, one's a rare, one's a mythic. Who's to say you'll get both? But my God, that's some power in Simic so far. And it's good because mono blue, there wasn't a lot of power in mono blue. Green had some delicacies in it. And here we have another Simic card. Okay. Cayenne. It's probably Cayenne. Dean of Substance, a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a green legendary creature, Elf Druid. You can tap it, exile the top card of your library. If it is a land card, put it into your hand. Okay. Okay. Otherwise, put a study counter on it. Huh? Wait. So I guess it stays exile. Pay 5 for generic and a green. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put a 1/1 counter on it for each different mana value among non-land cards you own and exile with steady counters on them. It's a 2/2. Huh. Interesting. That's different. On the flip side, we have Imbraham, Dean of Theory. It's a 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 blue, legendary bird wizard with flying. Pay X and 2 blue. Tap, exile top X cards of your library, and put a study counter on each of them. Then you may put a card you own in exile with a study counter on it into your hand. It's a 3/3. So a 4-drop 3/3 bird with flying, or a 3-drop 2/2 that exiles top cards of your library and potentially puts lands in your hand. I'm gonna give this a 3 point. Really, geez, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I think the 4-drop 3/3 flyer is fine. How often you're gonna want to exile top card of your library, I don't know, but maybe there's some kind of bounce theme where you like exile a bunch of times with this and then you bounce it back to your hand and then put this to the board, but that seems like a lot of work. I'm gonna get us a 3.5 for now, simply just being a 4-drop 3/3, and that could creep up really to like a 3.75. You know, it's not bad, but I just don't know how that ability is gonna work in limited. So I'm really just evaluating it on being a 4-drop 3/3 with some upside. Next we have Mila, Crafty Companion. 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 white, legendary creature Fox. Whenever an opponent attacks one or more planeswalkers you control, put a loyalty counter on each walker you control. Whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Okay, 3-drop 2/3. Could have gave it first strike, right? Like, would that have killed him? 3-drop 2/3 first striker with some upside. It's a mythic. Come on now, or maybe Magecraft or something, but it gives you a little bit of protection and whatnot. On the flip side, we have Luca Wayward Bonder, a 6-drop 4 generic 2 red. Legendary Planeswalker Luca. You may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. If a creature card was discarded this way, draw 2 cards instead. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of your next end step. You get an emblem whenever a creature ETB is under your control. It deals damage equal to its power to any target. So this is, in my opinion, is definitely a 5. The fact that it does have a lower cost inside that you can use early and that can give you value, even if it's targeted to draw a card, is great. And then having Luca Wayward Bonder on the other side, this is absolute ridiculous. Red-white is going to have some gasoline, I can already tell. And just having one of these bombs to fuel your fire is going to make your day in limited. Next we have Pestilent Cauldron, a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a black artifact. It has 3 options on it. You can tap, discard a card, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with. When this creature dies, you gain 1 life. You can pay 1, tap. Each opponent mills cards equal to the amount of life you gain this turn. Pay 4 and tap. Exile 4 target cards from a single graveyard and draw a card. So I love this. I really like this. I think this gives green black a lot of gasoline. Before we finish that, I'm going to come back to it. On the flip side, we have Restorative Burst, a 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 green sorcery. Return up to 2 target creature, land, and or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand. Each player gains 4 life. Exile Restorative Burst. I don't like that so much. I don't want to give my opponents anything. I've been playing Magic a few years now, and I've just learned that if you have to give your opponent something, like you have to pay something to get something, and then your opponents benefit off of that, that's wrong. So Restorative Burst loses a lot of value. I really wouldn't even play this side if I had the option to. it's tacked on to a relatively good card in my opinion. I like Pestilent Cauldron just being a 3-drop that can potentially generate me some tokens, right? But you do have to discard a card, right? And then the second ability doesn't even work unless you gain life this turn. I mean, it can keep the graveyard clear. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I want to rate it higher because it's something that I would like to play, and I would probably even try to play a couple copies if I came across them. But I can just see, like, there's so much work that has to be put into that card that it's just really above average, just a gold rare. Above average gold rare. Next we have Plarg, Dean of Chaos. It is a 2-drop, 1 generic, 1 red legendary orc shaman. That's pretty neat. That's really cool. You can tap it, discard a card, draw a card. Okay, I'm cool with that. Pay 5 for generic and a red. Tap. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary, non-land card with mana value 3 or less. You may cast a card without paying its mana cost. What? Put all revealed cards not cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. So a 2-drop 2/2 with that kind of upside? Ridiculous. Augusta, Dean of Order, 3-drop, 2 generic and a white. Other tapped creatures you control gets 1/0. Other untapped creatures you control gets 0/1. Whenever you attack, untap each creature you control, then tap any number of creatures you control. Red White's gonna have some sauce. I'm giving this a 5 automatic, just for Plarg, Dean of Chaos. This is freaking silly. You can have if you really want to, you can have a low drop Boros deck that could give you a lot of value, especially if you're running removal spells or if you're playing like Magecraft. This could even play the dog side of Luca, the wolf side of Luca, without a problem. And then this ability here, other tap creatures you control gets 1/0, so you can just swing in with your board. They all get 1/0 unless they have vigilance. And you can really control who taps and untaps. This card's nasty. Boros is looking absolutely disgusting. Boros and maybe Simic. And Mardu. I'm not going to forget about Mardu. We got a lot of archetypes to work on for limited. Next we have Rowan, Scholar of Sparks. 3-drop, 2 generic, and a red planeswalker. Rowan. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Thank you, thank you. +1, Rowan deals 1 damage to each opponent. If you've drawn 3 or more cards this turn, she deals 3 damage to each opponent instead. Okay. So potential, I mean, you tick it up and you're dealing a damage to each opponent every time. That's already value right there. You neg 4, you get an emblem with whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you may pay 2. If you do copy that spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. Ooh-wee, and this is only 3 mana. It starts off at 2 loyalty, but I think those are some good abilities for Rowan, especially to be a red walker. On the other side, we have Will, Scholar of Frost, a 5-drop, 4 generic, and a blue planeswalker, Will. That's kind of... You usually get like really cool names for walkers, right? Like Rowan, for instance, and this card's just named William. I'm not hating though. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Okay, so basically the same ability as Rowan. +1 up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness 0/2 until your next turn. You can neg 3, draw 2 cards. Okay. And neg 7, exile up to 5 target permanents. For each permanent exile this way, its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. So I'm giving this card like a 4.25 off bat. I think this side right here is really powerful. And even if you have to play Will, Scholar Frost, or you get the opportunity to, it it kind of protects you a little bit. It gives you a lot of draw power. And if you're able to neg 7, which I doubt you will, you can kind of control your board. This doesn't say that you just have to do this to your opponents. You could like exile their biggest thing and then exile your 4 little things, and yeah, they get a 4/4 blue and red elemental. Like I said, I don't like giving my opponents things, but if you get the value off that 2/4 things that can block it, well, I think that's a lot of value. I'm gonna give Rowan and Will a 4.25. Just automatic. They have so much versatility, and I think that's very relevant. And that really could go up. It might be a 4.5. It's definitely something I want to first pick. I think anything 4 and above is really like insta first pick. Next we have Selfless Glyph Weaver, a 3-drop 2 generic and a white human cleric. Exile Selfless Glyph Weaver. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. It's a 2/3. And we also have Deadly Vanity, a 8-drop 5 generic and 3 black sorcery. Choose a creature or planeswalker, then destroy all other creatures and walkers. So if Orzhov is going to be a thing, this is something that you're going to want. It's another board wipe, essentially. Takes a lot of mana to get there, and it's going to really depend on the format. To me, this is 4.25. It's well above average because you can save your whole board with just 1 creature. That's crazy. And to have the potential board wipe on the other side is pretty ridiculous too. It could easily be a 4.5, easily go up higher. Like, it really being a board wipe makes you want to just say 5, but the mana cost is really restrictive. Next we have Shail. I'm gonna call her Shail, Dean of Radiance. 2-drop, 1 generic, and a white bird cleric, flying vigilance. Tap it, put a 1/1 counter on each creature that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. It's a 1/1. Okay. On the flip side, we have Imbros, Dean of Shadow. 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 black. Legendary creature, human warlock. You can tap it, put a 1/1 counter on another target creature. Then Imbros, Dean of Shadows deals 2 damage to that creature. Okay. Whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it, dies, draw a card. I like this card. I'm gonna give it a 4.25. Kind of off rip. It's something like I definitely would play or pick early. The bird side is interesting. Just being a 2-drop 1/1 flyer with vigilance, I think is important, and the tap ability is strong as well. I do think Orzhov is gonna have a place in a draft archetype in this format. This is what you'll want to have there, and this is an interesting ability on the Imbro side as well. Put a 1/1 counter on another creature, and then Dean deals 2 damage to that creature, so you can pump your creature that's already big enough to survive, or you can kill their creature. That's a 1/1. And if a creature you control, or you could sack off one of your guys to draw a card. I like this card just because of the versatility, but it's interesting for sure. Next we have Torrent Sculptor. 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 blue, Merfolk Wizard. Has Ward 2. When Torrent Sculptor ETBs, exile an instant of sorcery from your yard. Put a number of 1/1 counters on Torrent Sculptor equal to half that card's mana value rounded up. So, if it's, say it's 4 mana, you put 2 1/1 counters on here. So a 4-drop, 4/4. With Ward, okay. Even if it's a 3, but if it's a 2, it gets 1 counter, a 4-drop, 3/3. On the flip side, we have Flamethrower Sonata. Ooh. 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 red. Sorcery, discard a card, then draw a card. When you discard an instant or sorcery card, this way, Flamethrower Sonata deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. I'm going to give this a 4. If you're trying to go, you'll want to play this. But this isn't something that immediately pops off the page for me. I kind of want to even give it like a 3.75. This side here is okay. You can potentially play a 4/4, and if you have a decent sized instant or sorcery in the yard, you get a decent sized creature with ward, which is great. That's kind of why I'm keeping it at 4. And if you don't want to play it for the wizard side, you want to use it as a removal spell, you can. So I think the versatility puts it well above curve, but I'm not liking how Izzet's looking personally. But I'm sure Izzet players will rejoice having these options here. Next we have Uvilda, Dean of Perfection, a 3-drop, 2 generic, and a blue Djinn Wizard, legendary creature. Tap. You may exile an instant or sorcery from your hand and put 3 hone counters on it. It gains at the beginning of your upkeep. If this card is exiled, remove a hone counter from it, and when the last hone counter is removed from this card, if it's exiled, you may cast it. It costs 4 less to cast this way. So they didn't make it free. They didn't make it free, 3-drop 2/2. And on the other side we have Nasari, Dean of Expression. 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 red, legendary creature, Efreet Shaman. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards. And you may spend mana as though it was any. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. Freaking tongue twisters. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a 1/1 counter on Nasiri, Dean of Expression. I'm gonna give this a 4. Actually, I really want to give it a 4.25. I think Nasari, Dean of Expression's ability is really ridiculous. Beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. My goodness. And then you may cast those for free. That's like little Tybalt or something. That's really good. I want to give this a 4.25. And Uvilda, I think it's playable if you really have to, but I would much rather play the other side of this card, Nasari. And last on our modal double face cards, we have Valentin, Dean of Vane, a 1-drop black legendary creature, vampire warlock with menace and lifelink. I think that's gonna be relevant. Lifelink, it's gonna be relevant. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. When you do, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with. When this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Alright. Lizette, Dean of the Root. 4-drop, 2 generic, 2 green. Legendary creature, human druid. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. And those creatures gain trample until end of turn. This is nice. This is real nice in black-green. Oh my goodness. I'm giving this a 4.25. It might be a 4.5, really. But I'm going to give it a 4.25 for now. But I can see this overperforming on either side. My goodness. Menace, lifelink, boom, boom. You can pump it, especially if you're in black-green. And then flip side, whenever you gain life, say you're in a pest deck, you gain life, put a counter on all your creatures whenever you gain life, so that's each instant. Oh my goodness. I'm giving this a 4.5 actually. This is, Lizette bumps it into a 4.5. This is ridiculous. Overall, I think the modal double face cards are all really nice. Was there one we didn't really like? Cayenne, I think it was. Cayenne wasn't that great. with Ibram. But other than that, I think every modal double face card was absolutely ridiculous. I think notable favorites, Extras. I think Extras is really good, especially with this other side here. Even though it's 8 mana, you sack your creatures. Ooh, maybe there's I can't remember if there was enough game control cards. I think there was only one, so you can't sack your opponent's things. But we haven't gone through all the gold cards yet. Maybe there's something there for us. But I think what really took the cake was Jadzi, Oracle of Archavios, being able to basically play your things for 1 mana is going to be ridiculous, and having Journey to the Oracle on the other side, that's just really good. I do believe we gave that a 5. That was just absolutely ridiculous. So if you enjoyed this kind of content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow, help boost my confidence and my views. I'm going to wrap up this session and take a break. When I come back, we will be going over the gold cards one by one, and be sure to follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, all of those good things, Instagram. And as always, you guys are fantastic. My name's Clintastic, and I'm gonna take a short break. I'll be right back. Heyo! Hello, Fantastics. It's Mr. Clintastic here with a Strixhaven School of Mages limited review. Here we'll be going over the cards in the set in relation to draft and sealed. If I do think they might see some play in standard, I might bring it up, but for the most part, this is only going to focus on draft and seal playability, where a lot of cards get to shine where they otherwise wouldn't. If you enjoy this kind of content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow in the future. And if you have any thoughts on the cards, please leave them down in the comment section below. So I've already done the monocolor cards. We've already done the modal double face cards. Now we're gonna go into the gold cards, which are the multicolored cards. Let's jump right in. First we have Aether Helix, a 5-drop, 3 generic, a green, and a blue sorcery. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, I can dig it. 5-drop bounce spell that gets you something back from the yard isn't bad. But when you have bounce spells that cost 2 and 3 mana, I think that makes a difference. But this does get something back from the yard, and it's not in black. So I think that has to be considered. And green does get things from the yard. I want to put this at a 3.5 right now. It is kind of a high cost, but it has a lot of value and could potentially help with Magecraft. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Next we have Beledros Witherbloom. Ooh, one of the Elder Dragons. It is a 7-drop, 5 generic black and a green, legendary creature, Elder Dragon. Flying. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Pay 10 life, untap all lands you control. Activate only once each turn. This might not be a popular idea, but I think this card is good in other places other than limited. Like maybe you want to try to do this in standard or maybe even modern. You pay 10 life and untap all your lands. But in standard, in limited, like draft and sealed, I'm not so sure. 7-drop, 4/4 flyer. Yeah, of course you slam this down. You can pay 10 life and untap all your lands, but do you really want to do that? For the fact that it is a mythic, it's a flyer, and at the beginning of each upkeep you create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when it dies, gain a life. I'm gonna give it a 3.5, but I think this is one of the weaker of the Elder Dragons for limited. I mean, you're gonna slam dunk this in your green black deck for sure. I'm gonna give it a 3.75 out of respect, because it does produce a creature each turn, and that could be pretty beneficial. Next we have Biomathematician. 3-drop, 1 generic, green, and a blue human wizard. When Biomathematician ETBs, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put a 1/1 counter on each fractal you control. It's a 2/2. A 3-drop 2/2. That makes a 1/1 fractal. Will fractals be a limited deck? Do y'all think so? Because I'm not so sure. I wasn't impressed. I'm more impressed with like how pests are looking, but I guess fractals, if pests are looking okay, fractals might play a part. I'm gonna give this a 3.25 for now. I think it's just okay. It has no evasion, but Simic's gonna want to play it. Next we have Blade Historian. 4-drop, hybrid colors, Boros. Human Cleric. Attacking creatures you control have double strike. It's a 2/3. If this ain't something Boros want, I don't know what is. My goodness. You literally, like, you can close out a game with this. Yikes. Yikes. So I'm going to give this a 3.75. This is really good to me. And I shouldn't talk about that dragon like a 3.75 isn't good. It's a good card, but it's a high mana cost. This is 4 mana, and if you're playing Boros, you're going to want to play this card. My god. Give all your creatures double strike and then say you're pumping or doing Magecraft or something, your opponents won't know what hit them. You're going to hit them like a truck. Next we have Blood Researcher, a 3-drop, 1 generic, black-green vampire druid with menace. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Blood Researcher. It's a 2/2. The green-black's going to want to play it, but it's not exciting. I mean, a 3-drop, 2/2 with menace. I'm going to give it a 3.25. It's just right above average to me. I mean, maybe this could get out of control if you're getting a lot of life. But who's to say? Next we have Blot Out the Sky, a X white black sorcery. Create X tapped 2/1 white and black Inkling creature tokens with flying. If X is X or more, destroy all non-creature, non-land permanents. I'm gonna give it a 4. Even though the creatures are tapped, they are flyers, so you can potentially win the game the next turn. Also, the second portion, you know, you can potentially blow out your opponents. I think this is actually really good, and it might be first pickable. I'm only going to give it a 4 because I don't know if I want to play multiple copies of this card. I might just want one, you know. You pay 4 mana. You pay 3 mana, you get a 2/1 flyer. Pay 4 mana. I mean, it does have exponential value. Maybe I do want multiple copies because you could just start playing it at 3 and then play it again at 4 or 5 or 6. So maybe this is like a 4.25, maybe even a 4.5. So for now, I'm gonna give it a 4.25. I think it's definitely first pickable. Pretty good. Next, we have Body of Research. 6-drop, 3 green, 3 blue sorcery. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X 1/1 counters on it where X is the number of cards in your library. Okay, very specific to Simic. We're gonna have to see how our lands play out. It can make you a big creature. If they're playing red, like Boros for instance, well, Boros has a way to get rid of it. It could just exile it for 3 mana at instant speed. They'll have to be playing like what? Red, black? I'm pretty sure black has something to get rid of this. I'm gonna get a card at 3.5. I know people will like it. I mean, it makes you a big creature, and if there's like a fling ability, maybe it's a little bit above curve. You can make a big creature. If they don't have the answer, they're just chomping all day, right? But if they have the answer, you're just invested 6 specific mana for little value. I'm gonna give it 3.5, and it could go up, but I don't know. I mean, making them have the answer is pretty important. I'm gonna give it 3. Yeah, I'm still gonna say a 3.5. 6 mana is a lot. The fractal token does not have trample. Next we have Closing Statement. Is a 5-drop, 3 generic, white, and a black instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast during your end step. Destroy target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target creature you do control. I love this. I'm definitely going to be playing Orzhov. Like, they're giving us all the things. Like, Orzhov or Mardu. Maybe Boros, but Orzhov definitely got some key pieces. You wait till your end step, you destroy their creature, and put a counter on something you control. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm definitely giving this a... I mean, I'm giving it a 3.75. Really close to a 4. I mean, it's just destroy target creature. And you can do it for what? 3 mana? Or planes. Closing Statement gets a 4. That's my closing statement. It takes out a creature or walker. That's really good. Cram Session, 2 mana, 1 generic, and a hybrid green black. You gain 4 life. Learn. If you're dealing with those life gain decks, you'll want to have this. It learns, so it gets you a card out the sideboard specific. I'm going to give it a 3.25. I think it's a little better than average, better than your just gain life cards. The learn ability, I keep saying it, it's just, in my opinion, pretty strong. Next we have Creative Outburst, a 7 drop, 3 generic, 2 blue, 2 red. Yikes. Instant Creative Outburst deals 5 damage to any target. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest from the bottom of your library in a random order. You may pay 2 mana, a blue 2 red blue hybrid. Discard Creative Outburst, create a treasure token. So you can use it to ramp for a turn, or you can deal 5 damage to your opponent. Look at top 5 cards of your library, put one in your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library. For 7 mana, well, is it play this? They're giving us a lot of spells, but they're taxing us for it, right? Let me slide over here. So there we go. They're really taxing us on these, so I don't know. I'm gonna give Creative Outburst a 3.25 right now. That's a heavy cost, and then I don't want to just ramp for a turn for 2 mana if I'm not casting it for its regular cost. Creative Outburst could go up, but right now it's not looking that great to me. Next we have Culling Ritual, a 4 drop, 2 generic, black and a green sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. I'm giving this a 4.75. Now, reasonable board wipes typically get like 5s, but the 8 mana one that didn't quite make it, right? This one isn't a full board wipe. It's just for permanents 2 or less, and that includes your permanents. But you get to ramp with it too, so you can play this. Say they have 2 creatures, 2 or less. Boom, you ramp up 2 mana. That could be invaluable. But at the same time, it's still not a full board wipe. So I'm not going to give it a 5 status. But I do think it's really high up there. 4.75. Next we have Culmination of Studies. It is a X blue red sorcery. Exile the top X cards of your library. For each land card exiled this way, create a treasure token. For each blue card exiled this way, draw a card. For each red card exiled this way, Culmination of Studies deals 1 damage to each opponent. This card is great. This is ridiculous. Wow. Draw cards, deal damage, make treasures. I'm going to give this a 4.25 because you can start playing it at 3, from 3 all the way up to the end of the game. I don't know if this is first pickable, but if you know you're going to be in Izzet and that's what you want to do, yeah, get Culmination of Studies. I'm going to give it a 3.75. Next we have Demogoth Titan, a 4 mana black-green hybrid card. It's a demon. Whenever it attacks or blocks, sacrifice a creature. It's an 11 freaking 10. I'm going to give it a 4.25. Because you do have to sack a creature every time it attacks or blocks. So you got to have a little something. Otherwise, it would be automatic 4.5. Just slam dunk. It's not a 5. But my goodness. This card is great. The mana value restricts it to green-black, which is fine. It's a freaking 11-10. It would be a 5 if it had Trample or Menace or Death Touch or whatever. Well, it wouldn't even need Death Touch. It's 11-10. So yeah, I'm gonna get us a 4.25. You see it? I'm gonna grab it if I see it, for sure. Demogoth Woe Eater. 4-drop, 1 generic, a black, a green-black hybrid, and a green demon. At the beginning of your upkeep, sack a creature. When you sack a creature, each opponent discards a card. You draw a card and gain 2 life. Ooh wee! It's a 7/6. Okay, I'm giving this a. Jeez, green black looks like he got some gas. This archetype guide is gonna be freaking fun because this is just uncommon. This is big playable. I'm gonna have to give this a 4.25, I think, as well. And the card value, I really want to give it higher, but just like the other card had a restriction, you gotta sack a creature at the beginning of your turn. And without it, you might end up sacking your own stuff. So you gotta play this right. But this card is really freaking good. Next we have Deadly Brew, a black-green sorcery. Each player sacks a creature or walker. If you sacrifice a permanent this way, you may return another permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so a 2-drop, you know, it's early. I like the card. It doesn't target. If you sack a creature, you can get something back from the battlefield. I'm gonna get this a 3.75. Card's kind of conditional. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of tokens. So they could just simply sack a token too. But the fact that you can get something back from your graveyard could be really potent. Next we have Decisive Denial, a green-blue instant. Choose one target creature you control, fight the target creature you don't control. Okay, and counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3. Simic's definitely gonna want this card. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 because it is restricted to Simic, just completely restricted. But it does have that modal feature that makes it really good. You can remove a threat that's already hit the board, or you can counter their board wipe or whatnot that you know you're gonna come up against. I'm guessing you're gonna see a board wipe at least half. I won't say half the time, but a good bit of times. Next time we have next card we have Dina Soul Steeper, a green-black legendary creature, Dryad Druid. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses life. Green-black's gonna want this, especially with those pests. Jeez. Oh my gosh. Green-black might be where it's at if it can survive the aggressiveness coming from white. Pay 1, sack another creature. Dina Soul Reaper gets X0 until end of turn, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So Dina could potentially even close out games. I'm gonna give it a 3.75 because you're gonna want the card in your green black deck, but it easily, you know, destroyed or whatnot. Doesn't attack in well, doesn't have trample, doesn't have any discernible qualities other than sacking one of your own creatures to boost it up. So I'm gonna give it a 3.75 just because I know your green black pest deck is definitely gonna want to run Dina to have a consistent strategy, and 2 of them in the build would be great. Next we have Double Major, green blue instant. Copy target creature spell you control, except it isn't legendary if spell is legendary. So do you have to do this as you're casting the creature? If it's just copy target creature that's on the board, that's really broken. For 2 mana? I really think this is copy the spell itself, like as you're casting it, which is fine, but it does take down, you know, it limits the window you can play the card. You'll want to have at least 5 mana when you do this to get a, you know, like a good 3-drop, maybe a good 2-drop, but I'm seeing 3 to 4 extra mana, so 5 to 6 mana before you play double major. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. It doesn't do anything by itself, but I think it's above curve, and the fact that it makes one of your legendary creatures not legendary, I think could be really powerful. Next we have Dramatic Finale. It's a 4-drop white-black hybrid enchantment. Creature tokens you control get 1/1. My pests are gonna get 1/1, and I mean, it's not in green-black. I mean green-blue, but your fractal tokens could get 1/1. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, create a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. This ability triggers only once each turn. Only once? I'd play 2 or 3 copies of this card. Like, especially if you're able to compose the creature token deck. I'm gonna give it a 3.75. You have to be in the token deck, but I mean, I really think this card could be up to a 4. But I'm not gonna choose this over like an efficient removal spell. But the fact that whenever a non-token creature you control die, you get to create a creature, I think that's really really powerful. I'm gonna give it a 3.75 though, and it might go up actually. Next we have Elemental Expressionist, a 4-drop red-blue hybrid creature orc wizard with Magecraft. Choose target creature you control until end of turn. It gains if this creature would leave the battlefield. Exile it instead of putting it anywhere else, and when you exile this creature, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. It's a 4/4. That's an interesting ability, right? I'm guessing you use this defensively, like your opponent targets your creature to remove. You Magecraft somehow? I don't know. I mean, reasonable stats is automatic a 3 just being a 4-drop 4/4. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 because of the added ability, and this card could go up, but I don't know how to gauge it right now. Next we have Elemental Masterpiece, a 7-drop 5 generic blue-red sorcery. Create 2 4/4 blue and red elemental creature tokens, or pay 2 hybrid red or blue, discard Elemental Masterpiece, create a treasure token. Your big brain players probably be able to use this to the fullest extent. I'm just gonna give it a 3.5 for now. Actually, I'm gonna give it a 3.25. I think it's right above average. That mana cost is just ridiculous, and I don't want to have to just discard my card to get a treasure token. Next we have Elemental Summoning, a 3-drop 2 hybrid red-blue hybrid 5-drop. I said that all wrong. 5-drop 3 generic 2 red-blue hybrid lesson. Okay, a lesson. Create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Okay. 3.5. I mean, 5-drop 4/4, but it's a lesson. You can just go get it out your sideboard. That's great. Especially when you're the Izzet player. Next we have Eureka Moment, a 4-drop 2 generic green blue instant. Draw 2 cards. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. What? Oh man, Simic players probably play 2 to 3 of these. I'm giving it a 4. I think this card is just absolutely amazing. You draw 2 cards, and you can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. It might be a 4.25 really, but I don't know if I'm gonna choose a removal over it, but it's pretty good. Oh man. Next we have Exhilarating Illocusion. 4-drop, 2 generic white-black sorcery. Put 2 1/1 counters on target creature you control. Other creatures you control get 1/1 until end of turn. Triggers Magecraft. It's a hefty cost for a sorcery, right? But you can put 2 1/1 counters on target creature. Then pump your whole squad. I mean, I think this is at least playable. I'm going to say it's a 3.25 because that's a heavy cost for a pump. And that could go up depending on the format. Next we have Expressive Iteration, a blue-red sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand. Put one of them on the bottom of your library. And exile one of them. You may play the exile card this turn. They're really giving us some unique effects, right? So you pick 3 cards, you put one in your hand, one on the bottom of your library, so you won't see that for a while. Then you can exile one and you can play it that same turn. I'm gonna give this a for is it right now I'm just gonna give it a 3.25. I think it's decent, but there's a lot of like, what if you exile a card and you can't cast it or something? I think it's okay, and is it players that probably want to pick it up, but I don't think it'd be a first pickable card for me. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe that card's a 3.5, but I'm still gonna give it a 3.25 for now. Next we have Fractal Summoning. It is a X2 hybrid green-blue. Lesson: create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X 1/1 counters on it. I like the fact that it's a lesson. I'm gonna give this a 3.5. Something because you like lessons. If they're average and they're lessons, they automatically go to being above average. But this isn't just broken. If you're doing like the fractal deck, maybe. But I'm not even sure if a fractal archetype is going to really come together. I'm going to have to see. But I'm going to give it a 3.5 just because it can be tutored up from the sideboard. Next we have Fracture, a white-black instant. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or walker. I'm going to give it a 3.25. I mean, it's a cheap way to destroy things. But it doesn't say creature. And that's what you really want to blow up for 2, right? Especially 2 white-black. Actually, I'm going to get this card to 3. I know it destroys walkers. Yeah, that's cool, but if it had lesson on it, that would be great. But it wouldn't be an instant. I'm going to give this a 3. I think this card is just average. You'll probably want to play 1 copy of it in your Orzhov build. Next we have Galazette Prismari, a 4-drop, 2 generic blue-red legendary creature, Elder Dragon, flying. When it ETBs, create a treasure token. Artifacts you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell. Okay, another Elder Dragon. This is a 3/4. I like it. I mean, I think it's high pick. What did we put the other one? At like, was it a 3.75 because of the mana cost? I'm pretty sure this is like 4-drop and is definitely pickable. It's gonna ETB ramp you but with a treasure. It's a cheap mana cost. I'm gonna give it a 4.25. I think it's gonna really want this, and then if you have other artifacts, it's gonna give you even more value on your big costing Izzet spells. So I'm going to give this a 4.25. I think Izzet players value this highly. Next we have Golden Ratio. 3-drop, 1 generic, green and a blue. Sorcery, draw a card for each different power among creatures you control. I'm going to just put this at average. Like, you could probably break this. You know, you have one power creature, two power creature, and then you play this, you get two cards, so it's a divination. And maybe later in the game it gives you some value, but what if your creatures are like the same power? So I think it's average, and it might be a little below or above average depending on how you play. Next we have Harness Infinity. It is a 7-drop, 1 generic, 3 black, 3 green instant. Exchange your hand and graveyard. Exile Harness Infinity. Big brains are gonna love this. If you're able to get it in a Golgari build where you're discarding cards and doing all these different things, maybe you want a copy of this. I'm gonna put it at 3.25. I think it's a little above average. I think Golgari will want to see it. Actually, I might have to invert that. I might have to put this at 2.75. This is really specific. Like, you have to be in green black, and you have to put together your build perfectly. So although this card has a lot of power behind it as far as a card, I think it's just a 2.75, a little below average. Next we have Hofri Ghostforge, a 5-drop, 3 generic, red and a white legendary creature, dwarf cleric. Spirits you control get 1/1 and have trample and haste. Nice. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a spirit in addition to its other types, and has when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exile card to your graveyard. Whoa, this is a 4/5. This card is ridiculous. If you're able to assemble the spirit deck, you're already in good shape. Plus, if your spirits die, they come back as a copy of it. Oh yeah, I'm giving this a 4.25. I really like this, and I will run a couple copies to build my spirit deck. Next we have Humiliate. White-black sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. So you might want one copy of this, but how many, like, this isn't putting anything on the board. It gives you a 1/1 counter, which is good. But in limited, I'm a little lower on the look in their hand, take something out type abilities. But since it does put a counter on one of your creatures, this might just be an average card. It really depends on the format. I'm going to give it a 3. Next, we have Infused with Vitality, a black-green instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains Death Touch, and when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped. Under its owner's control, you gain 2 life. Really good combat trick. Really good way to get ETBs off your creatures. Really good way to trigger life gain. I'm going to give this a 3.5. I think you'll want a couple copies of this in your Golgari deck. And you won't even be sad. You might even want 3 copies. And just get a lot of recursive power from that. And it's only 2 mana. Yeah, I'm giving it a 3.5. Next we have Inkling Summoning. 1 generic, 2 hybrid, white-black. Sorcery Lesson. Already a 3.5, right? Create a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. Yeah, I think that's just 3.5. It's just a little above average, simply being that it's a tutorable lesson. Next we have Kasmina Enigma Sage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, green, blue, legendary planeswalker Kasmina. Each other planeswalker you control has the loyalty abilities of Kasmina Enigma Sage. +2, scry 1, neg X, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, put X 1/1 counters on it. Neg 8, search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a color with this planeswalker. Exile that card, then shuffle. You may cast that card without playing its mana cost. It's 2 loyalty. I'm giving it a 4.75. I personally like 6 drop Liliana a little bit more than I like this card. You drop this card, the most you can make you can kill it and make a 2/2 fractal, or you can play it and scry 2. It's good, you know, depending on how you build around it, and it's a walker is going to give you abilities every time over the course of the game, so it puts it up there. But I don't think it's as good as Liliana, and I might even pick a board wipe over this. It just depends, but I'm going to give that a 4.75 for Casmina. Mostly out of respect. Next, we have Killian Ink Duelist, white-black legendary creature, human warlock with lifelink, menace. Spells you cast at targeted creature cost 2 less to cast. Ooh, this is exactly what your white-black deck's going to want, especially to trigger off Magecraft and whatnot. And it's a 2/2. I'm giving this a 3.5. It's legendary. If it wasn't legendary, I'd probably give it a 3.75. But this is a card that every Orzhov deck's going to want. Like, lifelink, menace. It might be a 3.75, but I'm going to keep it at 3.5 for now. Just above average, 2/2. Next we have Lorehold Apprentice, a red-white human cleric with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, till end of turn, spirit creatures you control gain. Tap this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's a 2/2. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm going to give this a 3.25. It's a 2-drop 2/2 for Boros, right? And if you're able to compose the spirit deck, maybe you get some value out of it. But other than that, it's just a 2-drop 2/2, which is average. And its ability only triggers with Magecraft, and you have to have the spirits. I'm giving it a 3.25 out of respect. Next we have Lorehold Command, a 5-drop, 3 generic red and a white instant. Choose 2. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Creatures you control get 1/0 and gain indestructible and haste until end of turn. Lorehold Command deals 3 damage to any target. Target player gains 3 life. Sacrifice a permanent, then draw 2 cards. I'm giving this a 4.25. This card's crazy, and Boros is definitely going to want it. You can give your creatures, you can pump your field, you can make a creature, you can gain life, deal damage, draw cards. This is great. It's 5 mana, but it's instant speed. Actually, I'm going to give this a 4.5, especially for Boros. That's kind of crazy. Lorehold Command could be first pickable. Throw you right into Boros. Next, we have Lorehold Excavation, a red-white enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, mill a card. If a land card was milled this way, you gain a life. Otherwise, Lorehold Excavation deals 1 damage to each opponent. Pay 5, exile a creature from your graveyard. Create a tapped 3/2 spirit creature token. So like I said, I think Mardu might have a place. Like, when I make my archetype guide, that's what I'm going to build for. I'm definitely going to try to put together Mardu based on that one card we saw in the modal DFCs that was, I believe, red, black on one side and white on the other. And this card is I feel like should go in there, you know. You're putting cards in the yard. This helps you mill, and if you want to get the cards back, maybe. But it's a high cost because you got to pay 2 here and 5 here. I'm really going to give this a 2.75. I think it's a little below average. It can deal damage to your opponent, gain you life, but I think it's really specific with what it does. I'm going to give it a 2.75. Boros players would probably want to try it, but I wouldn't even want to run multiple copies of that card. Next we have Lorehold Pledge Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 hybrid red-white creature core shaman with first strike and Magecraft. Whenever you cast it or copy an instant or sorcery, Lorehold Pledge Mage gets 1/0 until end of turn. That's 2/2. Okay, a little below average on stats. Has first strike though, which could be relevant. I'm gonna just give this a 3. It's average. Magecraft pumps the power a bit. And first strike I think is relevant, but we have what, 2-drop first strikers all the time. So I'm gonna give this a 3 for now. Next we have Maelstrom Muse, a 4-drop, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 hybrid blue-red, and a red creature gen wizard flying. Whenever Maelstrom Muse attacks, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is Maelstrom Muse's power as this ability resolves. So Maelstrom Muse attacks, and it's a 2/4, so it reduced the cost of an instant or sorcery by 2. After you attack, I'm gonna give this a 3.25. It is a flyer that I think Izzet want to play, and it could have a lot of upside. It'd be nice if it had some haste, or maybe cost 3. It'll bump it into like a 3.5 status, but this is right above average, being a 2/4 flyer with a little bit of upside if you attack. Next we have Magma Opus, an 8-drop. They made these spells so dang expensive. An 8-drop, 6 generic, blue-red instant. Magma Opus deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Tap 2 target permanents. Create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Draw 2 cards, or you can discard it to make a treasure token for 2 hybrid, blue-red. They really want Izzet to play these expensive ass spells. I'm sorry, like, my god. I'm gonna give this a 3.25. It does a lot, right? But the mana cost is absolutely ridiculous, and it's not a board wipe. It's not a cheap way to draw cards. It's not a cheap way to make a token. It's like trying to do all this stuff in one. So this could probably be higher than 3.25, but that's all I can give it based on my personal experience. A big brain might see this and pick up all the copies and be like, all right, I'm gonna play them on turn 2 somehow. I don't know how. Next you have Make Your Mark. It's a 1-drop red-white hybrid instant. I think that's neat. Target creature gets 1/0 until end of turn. When that creature dies this turn, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Okay, so it pumps up by 1, which isn't good. It's not good. For 1 mana, that's not even that great. It's like, I'm gonna give you it triggers Magecraft though. That's another thing. It does trigger Magecraft, and it replaces the creature in case they do happen to remove it. So I think this is kind of powerful. I'm gonna give it a 3.25 because I don't know how many I would want to run in my deck. Excuse me. All right, long review. Getting dry mouth. But anyways, I don't know that I want to have too many copies of this in my deck. But if I'm running a Boros, Magecraft, Punk deck, this might be exactly what I want 2 or 3 copies of. I'm going to give this a 3.25 for now until we kind of see how the limited meta shakes out. Next we have Manifestation Sage. It's a 4-drop green-blue hybrid human wizard. When Manifestation Sage ETBs, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So alright. You're playing this for 4 mana. So let's say you do play it out on curve. You start with 7 cards. You put a mana out for 4 turns, but you draw a card for 4 turns. But you're playing spells for like 3 turns. So you might play this as a 4 and maybe have like a 3/3, 2/2, or 3/3 out. And these fractal tokens don't have evasion. I'm just not a big fan of them. And they don't combo like, at least the Pest. You know, if you get that green-black whenever you gain life, the opponent lose life, you can try to combo. I'm not sure how that's going to work with the green-blue here. Maybe you just want to build a big board and swing in. I just don't know. So I'm going to give Manifestation Sage a 3.25. I think it's just right above curve. Right above average. But other than that, I don't know how often I'll be looking at it personally. Next we have Moldering Karak, a 4-drop 2 generic black green trample lifelink 3/3 zombie crocodile. Yes, yes, 3.75. Your Golgari deck is gonna want this all day. Trample lifelink, pump it up, protect it. Do all you can to make sure this is getting in and dealing some damage. I really like Moldering Karak. Did I say 3.75? I think this is a 3.75. I really think it could be higher, but I'm not going to pick this over a good removal. Trample, lifelink, my goodness, that's great. Next we have Mortality Spear. 4-drop, 2 generic, black and a green. Costs 2 less to cast if you gain life this turn. Destroy target non-land permanent. We'll give this a 4. Like, this is what I'm saying. I would pick this over the crocodile. But they're both still great. Green black is shaping up with these common and uncommon. Like, I would run 4 of these Moldering Karaks. I would run 4 Mortality Spears. So yeah, 4, 3.75. Next we have Needlethorn Drake, a green-blue Flying Death Toucher. That's a 1/1. Okay, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Flying Death Toucher 1/1. If it was a 2/2, that could be even better. But it'll take out pretty much anything. It's evasive. That's about all. other than that, what else is there to say? I'll give it a 3.5. Simic decks will want to play it, and I mean you can play as many copies as you want, and then just pump or defend with it. Next we have Ogier Battle Seer, a 5-drop, 3 generic blue and a red Ogre Shaman with haste, and you can tap and scry. It's 3/4. Okay, 3.5, 5-drop 3/4 with haste. I think is decent, and it has the scry ability on it. You may want that with these big spells that is playing. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5. There's not much to say about it. Next we have Owlin Shield Mage, a 5-drop, 3 generic white and a black bird warlock with flying and ward. Pay 3 life. It's a 3/3. Okay, now I like my flyers to give me a little value when they ETB, especially in white black. You can have some that gain you life when they enter the battlefield or drain your opponent, but this gives you ward, protects it a little bit. I think you'll want to play this in your Orzhov deck. I think it's a 3.5. Would be nice if it had lifelink or something. Next we have Pest Summoning, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 hybrid black green lesson. Automatic 3.5. I might need to go through and say that if it's a lesson, it gets to be a 3.5 because you don't even have to have it in your main deck. You can just pull it from your sideboard. Create 2 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Okay, 3.5. Just let it be in your sideboard. Go get it when you need it. Next we have Practical Research, a 5-drop, 3 generic blue red instant. Draw 4 cards. Discard 2 cards unless you discard an instant or sorcery. 5-drop instant that draws you 4 cards. That's not bad. You might want to run 1 copy. I'm gonna get this a 3.25. Like, that mana cost is just so dang expensive, especially for Izzet. Next we have Prismari Apprentice, a blue-red human shaman with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Prismari Apprentice can't be blocked this turn. If that spell has mana value 5 or greater, put a 1/1 counter on Prismari Apprentice. Your Izzet player is going to want to play this all day. I'm going to give this a 3.5 as well, simply because it only has unblockable when you cast a spell, so that really limits when it can get in for damage. But I do think it has a lot of upside, and your Izzet player is going to want to play it all day. Next we have Prismari Command, a 3-drop, 1 generic blue-red instant. Choose 2. Deal 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards 2 cards. Target player creates a treasure token or destroy target artifact. So I like this a lot. For 3 mana you can deal 2 damage and make a treasure. That's ramping and taking out something. You can kind of filter your spells if you choose to. I'm going to give this a 3.5 as well. I think this is above average, and you'll definitely want to play it in your Izzet deck. Next we have Prismari Pledge Mage, a 2-drop blue-red hybrid orc wizard defender with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Prismari Pledge Mage can attack this turn as though it didn't have defender. A 2-drop 3/3. Okay. I'm going to give this a 3.5. This is well above curve as far as the mana cost in the power and toughness. And then whenever you cast a spell, you know, say you're swinging in, you blow up their creature, you swing in for 3. That's crazy. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think the card's really good for Izzet. Next we have Quandrix Apprentice. Excuse me. A green-blue human wizard, Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. It's a 2/2. Simit's going to love this because it's not legendary. It's uncommon, but say you have 2 of these on the board, trigger Magecraft, you're getting a lot of value off that. Still, I'm going to give it a 3.5. It's a 2/2 for 2. You have to trigger Magecraft. Not totally broken ability, but I think it's really good. Next we have Quandrix Command, a 3-drop, 1 generic green-blue. Choose 2. Return target creature or planeswalker to his owner's hand. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Put 2 1/1 counters on target creature. Target player shuffles up to 3 cards from their graveyard into their library. This is great. Gold rare. It bounces, so you can protect yourself or protect one of your creatures. You can... I haven't seen a lot of significant artifacts or enchantments, but you can counter if you choose to. You can put 2 1/1 counters on your creature, so combat trick mixed with... You don't get to put the cards in your hand, but putting the cards back in your library is keeping them in the game. So I think Quandrix Command is definitely up there. I'm going to give it a 3.5 as well. It's pretty dang good. I'd run 2 copies of it. Maybe even 3, simply because you can bounce. Next we have Quandrix Cultivator, a 4-drop, 1 generic green-blue hybrid, and a blue turtle druid. When Quandrix Cultivator ETBs, you may search the library for basic forest or island, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Sweet. Sweet. It's a 3/4. Simic, play this all day. I'm going to give it a 3.5. It's not totally broken or nothing like that, but you slam it, you're ramping. It's a Solemn Simulacrum and Simic for specifically Simic colors. And it has a higher power and toughness. I know I'm giving a lot of cards 3.5s, but they're all just kind of on par with each other here. Next we have Quandrix Pledge Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, and 2 green-blue hybrid. Merfolk Druid has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 counter on Quandrix Pledge Mage. It's a 2/2. It does put a 1/1 counter on itself, which is pretty dang relevant. 3-drop 2/2. I'm going to give it a 3.25. The Magecraft ability is potent. You know, it can easily start getting out of hand, but it doesn't have trample. It doesn't have any kind of evasion. It can be chumped and then destroyed later in the game. So I'm going to give it a 3.25 for now. Next we have Quandrix Field Historian, a 5-drop, 3 generic red and a white legendary creature, Elephant Cleric. Spirits you control get 1/0. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. That's a 2/4. It's pretty niche, right? Boros has had some cards that got us pretty hyped, but this one I'm just kind of like, eh. If you happen to get it for your Boros Spirit deck, if you're able to compose it, yeah, but other than that, it's just a 5-drop 2/4. And, I mean, you might be able to get the second half to trigger, but you really got, it's real niche. I'm giving this a 2.5. Just because I think it could have some potential with the spirits, but we'll have to see. But other than that, it's really below average. Next we have Radiant Scroll Wielder, 4-drop, 2 generic, red and a white, Dwarf Cleric. Instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard. You may cast it this turn. If a spell cast this way would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. It's a 2/4. Okay. How to evaluate this? 4 mana, 2/4. Not evasive. You gotta wait till your upkeep, and it exiles randomly from your yard. I'm gonna give this average because I think I don't know. Maybe it's a 2.75. This might be below average. Like, there's 4/4 for 4s, and then you really gotta wait and have this trigger for you. I'm gonna give this a 2.75 for now, and we'll see how it works out in the limited ladder. Next we have Reconstruct History, a 4-drop, 2 generic, red, white sorcery. Return up to 1 target artifact, up to 1 target enchantment, up to 1 target instant, up to 1 target sorcery, up to 1 target planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Reconstruct History. I'm gonna give this a, I don't know. Like, you're not gonna want to play this early. You're only gonna want really 1 copy of it. I'm gonna give it a 2. Really, it's not something I'm gonna go after immediately. And you know, it's a really niche situation where you get to get all those cards back. Next we have Relic Sloth, a 5-drop, 3 generic, red and white beast with vigilance and menace. Okay, it's a 4/4. So Boros is looking pretty beefy. 4/4 vigilant menace guy is gonna be ridiculous. I want to run a couple copies of this in my deck. I'm gonna give it a 3.25. The mana cost was restricted in order to be a 3.5 in my book. It was a 4-drop. No, if it was any lower, a 4-drop, 4/4 with menace and vigilant, it'll probably be a 3.75. Next we have Returned Past Caller. It is a 6-drop, 3 generic, a red-white hybrid, and a white spirit cleric. Flying. When it ETBs, return target spirit, instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. It's a 4/2. Jeez Louise, these mana costs. My goodness. I'm giving this a 3.25, a 6-drop 4/2 flyer. The ETBs, you get some value, right? But you gotta replay the card you're getting value from, and that's probably gonna be infinite. I'm gonna give it a 3.25. Boros might want to play it simply because it's flying. Next we have Rip Apart, a red-white sorcery. Choose 1, deal 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, or destroy target artifact or enchantment. 2-drop, 3 damage to a creature in red-white. That's already average, right? So I'm gonna give it a 3.25. It's a little above average. You can deal it to a walker. Next we have Rise of Ixtus, a 6-drop, 4 generic, white-black, 2 white-black hybrid sorcery. Exile target creature, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery from a graveyard. Learn. So for 6 mana, you can exile target creature, which is good, but we have cheaper things than that. So this is average. It has learn, so I'm gonna give it a 3.25. It's just really expensive, right? But it does have that learn ability attached to the expensive cost, which is it's a removal spell, draw a card for 6. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3.25. It's decent, but it's very costly. Next we have Rutha Mercurial Artist. 3-drop, 1 generic blue-red legendary creature Orc Shaman. Pay 2, return Rutha Mercurial Artist to its owner's hand. Copy target instant or sorcerer you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. It's a 1/4. 3-drop, 1/4. It's not really that great. That you can pay 2, bounce it to its owner's hand to copy a spell. Then you got to play this back. That's a lot of work. I'm gonna get this for me is like a 2.5. Is it players might want to play it, but I wouldn't be looking at it too highly. It's just a lot of mana cost, and that seems to be the theme of this set. It's high mana cost. Stop it. Next we have Rushed Rebirth, a black-green instant. Choose target creature. When that creature dies this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser mana value. Put it onto the battlefield tapped. Shuffle. I like this. I think it's 3.5. It's above average. You gotta kind of wait till a creature dies, but it could even be an opponent's creature, right? Their creature dies, or somehow, you block appropriately, and you get to go get value from your graveyard, essentially for 2 mana. I think that's really good. I'm gonna give this a 3.5. Next we have Shadewing Laureate, a 3-drop white-black hybrid and black-human warlock with flying. Whenever another creature you control with flying dies, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It's a 2/2. 3-drop 2/2 with flying, average, with upside ability. I'm giving it a 3.25. I'll run this in my Orzhov deck for sure, but it needs a little help to be good. Otherwise, I'm sure people can either block it or chump it or just not care about 2 damage. Next we have Shadedrix Silverquill, a 5-drop 3 generic white-black Elder Dragon, legendary creature with flying and double strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. Target player creates a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. Target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Target player puts a 1/1 counter on each creature they control. And it's a 2/5. So here, I believe the only time you're not really giving your opponent some benefit is when you're putting 1/1 counters on each creature they control and they just don't have any creatures, right? Other than that, you're paying 5 to potentially give them a card or give them a creature or put a 1/1 counter on all their creatures. I'm gonna give this card a 4. I mean, it's a 5-drop in Orzhov with double strike and 2/5 with some neat abilities, but you're gonna have to be really, really careful how you delegate those abilities. So I'm gonna give it a 4. I think the Izzet Dragon might be just a little bit better than this because it's really scary giving your opponent any kind of value for free. Next we have Silverquill Apprentice, a white-black human warlock with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, target creature gets 1/0 until end of turn. It's a 2/2. So I'm gonna give this a 3.25. It's serviceable. You'll want it in your Orzhov decks, but it's not broken. Next we have Silverquill Command, a 4-drop, 2 generic white-black. Choose 2. Sorcery. Target creature gets 3/3 and gains flying until end of turn. Return target creature with mana cost 2 or less from your yard to the battlefield. To the battlefield. That's good. Target player draws a card and loses a life. Okay. Target opponent sacks a creature. Gee wee. Alright, we're giving this a 3.75. This is really high up there. This gives you a lot of bang for your buck, allowing you to choose two, can potentially draw your card. It can close out a game. You make them sack a creature, give one of your creatures flying. My goodness, Silverquill Command looks amazing, especially at 4 mana. Next we have Silverquill Pledge Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 white-black hybrid vampire cleric. With Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Silverquill Pledge Mage gains your choice of flying or lifelink until end of turn. It's 3/1. So basically a 3-drop 3/1. I'm gonna give this card a 2. It's not bad, and you know you can play it in either or. It's serviceable, right above playable, and it can gain you some value later after triggering Magecraft. But initially, by itself, it's just a 3/1 for 3. Next, we have Silverquill Silencer, a white-black human cleric. As Silverquill Silencer ETBs, choose a non-land card name. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with the chosen name, they lose 3 life and you draw a card. Ooh wee. It's a 3/2. So it's already better than a bear being a 3/2. So that's 3.25 right there. I'm giving this a 3.5. I think this card is really nice. It's not legendary. And it really gets better in multiples. If you can figure out what your opponents are playing, especially. It might not be that great in limited, but this might even see some standard. I might play this in standard. This is pretty good. And if you look at your opponent's hand and see what they're going to play, it makes it even better. I'm giving this a 3.5. Next we have Spectacle Mage, a 3-drop, 1 generic blue-red bird shaman with flying. Instant and sorcery spells you cast with mana value 5 or greater cost 1 less to cast. It's a 2/2. Is it players? Pick this up. Now 3-drop 2/2 flyer is decent, serviceable. So it's average. And I feel like the added ability is very relevant. I'm gonna give this a 3.5 because I feel Is It players really need this. This can stack, and the more the merrier I feel with Spectacle Mage. I'm really liking this card because those Is It spells looked really beefy. But I'm gonna keep it at 3.5 because it only goes really in that deck there. Next we have Spirit Summoning, a 3-drop, 1 generic, 2 red-white hybrid lesson. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Okay, 3.5. Not much to say there. Go pull it out your sideboard, play it, got a creature. 3/2. Next we have Spiteful Squad, a 4-drop, 2 generic, white and black human warlock with Death Touch. ETBs with 2/1/1 counters are on it. When it dies, put its counters on target creature you control. Okay, it's a 0/0. If you put more counters on it, those counters, when it dies, would still transfer to another creature. I like that it has Death Touch. I'm going to give it a 3.5. No, it's a 4 mana, 2/2. Yikes. I'm going to give it a 3.25. Really, honestly, I don't know why I thought this was 2 mana. I mean, it has Death Touch. That's fine. I'm going to give this a 2.75. I think this is really right below playable after everything we've seen in Orzhov. Next, we have Square Up, a 2-drop, 1 generic green-blue hybrid instant. Target creature has base power and toughness 4/4 until end of turn. Whew. That could really shake it up for your opponents. I'm just going to give it... I'm going to give it a 3. I think it's average. I don't know if it's something that's going to break the format. Next, we have Stonebound Mentor, a 3-drop, 1 generic red-white spirit advisor. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, scry one. It's a 3/3. So a 3-drop 3/3 is already great, and it has an ability that has some upside. So I'm gonna give it a 3.25. Boros will love to see it. Next we have Tanazir Quandrix, a 5-drop, 3 generic green blue legendary creature, Elder Dragon, flying and trample. When it ETBs, double the number of 1/1 counters on target creature you control. So you'll want to, this could go in the Fractal deck or whatnot. Whenever it attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir Quandrix's power and toughness until end of turn. So this does it for all creatures. So if you have a field full of 1/1s, when this attacks, all of them become 4/4s. This is pretty dang powerful. This is pretty strong. Yeah, this is, I'm gonna give this 4.25. I think this is up there as well with the Izzet Dragon. I think they're just very potent. It's a 4/4 itself. Say you pump it to a 5/5/6/6, make all of your things that, because it doesn't say Quandrix's base power and toughness, just his power and toughness. You could really blow somebody out with Quandrix. I'm giving it a 4.25. Next we have Teach by Example, a 2-drop blue-red hybrid instant. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. I'm gonna give this a, don't play this. I just don't think it'd be good. You'll really have to play around with this to make it work right. I'm gonna put it like at the 1 level. It doesn't do anything without something else, and that's just not good. Next we have Tend the Pests, a green-black instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature. Create X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. So you sack your 6/6, you get 6 green pest tokens. You can use this defensively, right? That's kind of how you'll want to play it. I think this card is interesting. I'm going to give it a 2.75 until I see how well it runs, because it's a little below average. Without a creature, it does nothing. And say you only have a 1/1, you trade it 1/1 for another 1/1. I'm actually give it a 2.5. I'll have to see how it runs. Next we have Thrilling Discovery, a red-white sorcery. You gain 2 life, then you may discard 2 cards. If you do, draw 3 cards. This would be great for Boros. They're gonna love this. I'm gonna give it a 3. It's definitely above average because it gains you life, and that's relevant in this format. But you got to discard 2 cards. Right now I'm gonna give this a 3.25. I think any Boros deck will want to see it, but you're not gonna want to have too many of them. You know, maybe 2 copies. Next we have Vanishing Verse, a white-black instant. Exile target mono-colored permanent. And normally I would think this would just be an absolute bomb, right? I'm going to give it a 3.5 simply because, as you see, there are a lot of multicolored permanents, which is going to take the value of this card down a lot. But having 2 copies in your deck I think is very safe and something you'll want to do in Orzhov. Next we have Velomacus Lorehold, a 7-drop, 5 generic, red-white legendary creature, Elder Dragon, flying, vigilance, haste. Whenever it attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to Velomacus Lorehold's power, which is 5, from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. So I think this is an absolute bomb. If I see this, I'm definitely going into Boros. I'll figure out how to get to my 7 mana. Playing spells for the free ski. I might even try to go into a Jeskai build with this. 5 mana is a lot, and there's a lot of hefty cost instants and sorceries in red-blue, which I think would make this even better. So I'm gonna give this a 4.5. I like this card a lot. Flying Vigilant and Haste is already up there. The mana cost is painful, but it does something. It has potential to do something immediately and give you a lot of value at the end of the day over the course of a few turns. So I'm giving it a 4.5. I think it's the best Elder Dragon. Next we have Venerable Warsinger, a 3-drop, 1 generic, red and a white spirit cleric with vigilance and trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature card with mana X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of damage Venerable Warsinger dealt to that player. My god. Alright, I'm giving this a 3.75. Boros players are going to want to pick this up. It's a 3-drop, 3/3, so that's definitely average, with vigilance and trample, and the ability to get creatures from the yard. This card is nasty. This card is nasty. I mean, it can be blocked or whatnot, and I'm not going to choose it over removal, but my goodness, Boros players pick that up. Witherbloom Apprentice, a black-green human druid with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant of sorcery, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. It's a 2/2. So I'm going to give this a 3.25. You need to trigger Magecraft for it to be beneficial, but I think it goes well in a Golgari build easily. And if you happen to pick it up, I think you'll be happy with it if you happen to pick it up. Next we have Witherbloom Command, a black-green sorcery. Choose 2. Target player mills 3 cards, then you return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana 2 or less. Target creature gets -3, -1 until end of turn. Target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I'm going to give this a 2.75. Like, I mean, no, I'll say it's average. The -3/1 might come in handy, and the destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent might come in handy. I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna say it's average for now. It does things by itself, but does some pretty weird things. Next we have Witherbloom Pledge Mage, a 5-drop, 3 generic, 2 black-green hybrid, Treefolk Warlock with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you gain 1 life. 5-drop, 5/5 with upside. We'll give it a 3.25. And last on our multicolored spells, Zimone, Quandrix Prodigy, green-blue, human wizard, legendary creature. Pay 1, tap. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Okay. Pay 4, tap, draw a card. If you control 8 or more lands, draw 2 cards instead. It's a 1/2. Sweet. I'm going to give this card 3.5. I mean, it's not going to necessarily win you the game. It's just going to give you a little value over time. But it's well above curve. And if you have 2 of them, you'll probably be happy to see them. But I don't think it's game breaking. Woo, that was a lot of cards. That was a lot of multicolored cards. And I think this is going to definitely be a 2 to 3 color limited format. We saw a lot of good things out of Boros. Especially, what was that card? The 3-drop. Let's go back down. Venerable Warsinger and Velomacus Lorehold. I think Boros has a lot to offer. Should I call him Lorehold, I guess? Witherbloom, Golgari, has a lot to offer as well. Has interesting spells, but they look overcosted. Really overcosted for my liking. Simic look decently powerful. Tanazir Quandrix looks good. Yeah, so I think in limited, you're going to definitely be planning to play 2 to 3 colors. I think you're not going to want to stick to one color that might limit you way too much. So if you enjoy this kind of content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow in the future. Help my channel get spread to more people. I'm going to try to do these limited reviews more and more in the future. And when we come back, we are going to have a limited guide on the colorless spells, the artifacts, and the lands. So as always, you guys have been fantastic. My name is Mr. Clantastic, and I'll be back shortly. Ayo! Hello, Fantastics! It's Mr. Clintastic, here with a Strixhaven School of Mages limited review. If you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow in the future. So far, we've gone through all the monocolored cards, the modal double-faced cards, and the multicolored cards, otherwise known as gold cards. Now we're moving on into the colorless, well, the artifacts and the colorless spells. We're going to do those together. So let's hop right in. First, we have Biblioplex Assistant, a 4-drop gargoyle artifact creature with flying. Whenever Biblioplex Assistant ETBs, put up to one target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. A 4-drop 2/1 flyer, I mean, it's colorless. It does something when it ETBs. Right now I'm just going to give this card average. Actually, I'm just going to give it a 2.75. I really find it to be a little below average because if you don't have an instant or sorcery in your yard, it's really just a 4-drop 2/1, which really isn't that exciting. So we're going to give it a 2.75 with potential upside. And for those who don't know, I do rate the cards for limited, draft and sealed on a 1 through 5 scale, 5 being absolute bomb, 1 being absolute dud. So 3 is about average, in which a lot of cards will range around that 3 point. I try to gauge it, is this card at least average and go up, or is it not average and go down? And this isn't average to me. So I'm going to give it a 2.75 with the potential to have some benefit. Next, we have Campus Guide, a 2-drop artifact creature golem. When it ETBs, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. It's a 2/1. I don't like it. I kind of have stages when it comes to my land retrieval. First, I like land to go straight to the battlefield. Then I like my land to go to my hand. I never like my land to go to the top of my library. So this is a 2-drop 2/1 artifact that grants you potential fixing. I'm gonna have to give it a little below average too. Honestly, like, it's not even a 2/2 bear. You might not want to play this, but it could see some play. I'm gonna give it a 2.5. It's not impressive to me. Next, we have Cody Vociferous Codex. So I already did my pre-order and got the little Codex pit. I think that's a neat little idea for a creature. 3-drop legendary artifact creature construct. You can't cast permanent spells. Relevant. Pay 4, tap, add 5 mana of one of each color. When you cast your next spell this turn, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an instant or sorcery with lesser mana value. Until the end of your turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put each other card exiled this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's a 1/4. I don't know how to gauge this at all. It's not like a regular artifact where it's not able to block for you, but you put this down and then you can't play permanents anymore. I think that's painful. You pay for tap, it nets you a mana, but you can only use that mana for instants and sorceries. A 3-drop 1/4 that stops you from playing permanents and restricts you to playing instants and sorceries, but allows for free casting. I think that's just way too restrictive. I'm gonna put Cody at a 2. I would love to put this card a little bit higher, but it's right above playable for me. And I mean, there might be a big brain player that absolutely wrecks me with Cody, but I'm gonna have to see it to believe it. Next we have Cogwork Archivist, 6 drop, colorless, of course. Artifact creature construct with reach, pay 2, tap, put target card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. It's a 4/5. I'm going to give this a 2 as well. It's right above playable. I mean, it's not hurting you to play it. But at the same time, you're not going to want to see too many of those. Next we have Excavated Wall, a 1-drop artifact creature wall. Defender, pay 1, tap, mill a card. It's a 0/4. I'm going to have to give this a 2 as well. I mean, it's a 0/4 wall, but it's not going to help you win the game. It's right above playable. These artifacts aren't looking that great in comparison to the rest of the cards. Next we have Letter of Acceptance, a 3-drop artifact. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Yes. Pay 2, tap, sacrifice Letter of Acceptance, draw a card. I'm giving this a 3.5. Really a 3.75, but it doesn't do anything on its own. I'm going to give it a 3.5. You're going to want multiple copies of this. This is above curve too. Above average. It gives you 1 mana of any color, which is great instead of making you declare a color. And you can sack it to draw a card when you're done with the color fixing. I'll probably run 3 of these to play my 3 to 5 color deck. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Letter of Acceptance is amazing. Next we have Reflective Golem, a 3-drop artifact creature golem. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Reflective Golem, you may pay 2. If you do, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. It's a 2/3. Not even a 3/3 for 3. I'm going to give it a 2.5. You need things to make it work, to target or whatnot. And I think red-white, the deck that you'll probably want to be targeted in, it's already going to have enough playable. So I'm going to put this at 2.5. Because it's just a little costly for my liking. You can slide it into your aggressive decks if you need more playables, but it's really not that great to me, and it's not even an average with 3/3 for 3. Next we have Spell Satchel, 2-drop artifact with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, put a book counter on Spell Satchel. Tap it, remove a book counter from Spell Satchel, add a colorless, okay. Pay 3, tap, remove 3 book counters from Spell Satchel, draw a card. So potentially ramps, potentially draws. I would probably play 2 of these. I like this card. Gotta have Magecraft for it, so I'm just gonna put it at average because it needs other things to work. But I think this could see some play. Actually, this might be more of like a 2.5. A little below average because it does need other things to work. I'm going to give it a 2.5. It doesn't do much by itself. Next we have Strixhaven Stadium, a 3-drop artifact. Tap it, add a colorless. Put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, remove a point counter from Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Then, if it has 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all, and that player loses the game. I love this. I love this design. I think this is excellent. This is fun. This is fun. I'm going to try it. It ramps you, and it gives you an alternative win con. I'm putting this at 3.75. If you see it, you're going to want to grab it in any color, actually. So it could be a 4, but I'm not going to pick this over removal unless I'm just feeling some kind of way that day. This has a lot of potential. Like I said, it does ramp you, which is the key point, but it is an alternative win con that if you're playing a token heavy deck, you may just get to. I'm going to give Strixhaven Stadium a 3.75. I think it's excellent. Next we have Team Pennant, a 1-drop artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets 1/1 and has vigilance and trample. Equipped creature token for 1, equipped for 3. I'm gonna get us a 2.5. You might slap this onto your tokens or whatnot. Oh man, your fractal creature. You right? Your fractal creature that you play and make it equivalent to your deck. It's freaking a 2020. And I didn't even consider in draft and limited we're gonna be only mostly having 40 card decks. So that 6 cost it still could be like a 2020, but it's not gonna be as big as it would be in standard or commander. Oh my god. Jeez, but I think Team Pennant's like a 2.5. I think he's going to add a lot of value to your build and give the appropriate creatures trample and vigilance, which is ridiculous. Next we have Zephyr Boots. 1-drop equipment, creature has flying. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, discard a card, equip for 2. I like it. Helps you loot or rummage. No, loot. Draw a card, discard a card. I'm going to get this a 2.5 as well. It does need other things to work, but it does have a high upside. So before we get into the lands, we're just going to go up. There was a few colorless spells. We're going to follow up the artifacts with colorless. It wasn't many of them. We even have a colorless MDFC. So here we have Environmental Sciences. It's a lesson. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle, you gain 2 life. 3.5. I feel like I've said it again and again. The lessons, unless like they're not going to be below 3.5 unless they're completely unplayable. Expanded Anatomy, 3 mana, lesson, put 2/1/1 counters on target creature, gains vigilance until end of turn, 3.5. Introduction to Annihilation, 5-drop lesson, exile target non-land permanent, its controller draws a card, 3.5. You know, even if you're just playing this in your deck, you know, I don't like giving my opponents anything, but the fact that this is a lesson that you can tutor up from your sideboard by learning just makes it way better than, in my opinion, makes it better than I would perceive. Introduction to Prophecy, 3 mana, lesson, scry 2, draw a card, 3.5, not broken or anything. Mascot Exhibition, 7 mana, lesson, create a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying, a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token, and a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Still, I mean, it's putting a lot of power on the board for 7 mana. It's a lesson. I still think it's 3.5 in my opinion. It's a high mana cost. And last, we have Wandering Archaic. 5-drop. Whenever it's an avatar creature, whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery, they may pay 2. If they don't, you may copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. It's a 4/4. Also, Explore the Vastlands, a 3-drop sorcery. Each player looks at the top 5 cards of their library, reveals a land card or an instant or sorcery card from among them, then puts the cards they revealed this way into their hand, and the rest on the bottom of the library in a random order. Each player gains 3 life. So it gets you a land and or an instant or sorcery for 3. No, each player. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Don't play Explore the Vastlands. That card's a dud. That's a 1 for me. But I think Wandering Archaic is playable. I think it's a 3.5 drop 4/4. I'm gonna give it 3.25. It's okay, and that ability might come in handy for you once or twice, but I don't think it's just game breaking. So that's gonna wrap up our discussion on the artifacts and the colorless spells for Strixhaven School of Mages Limited. Overall, I felt they were pretty, in comparison to our multicolored spells, I think they were pretty weak. But I think I like Strixhaven Stadium a lot. I think that was my favorite out of the cards. So once again, if you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, talk about it with your friends, leave a comment in the box below. Follow me on all my social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. You know the deal. When we return, we will be going over the land cards, which aren't many. And then we'll probably combine the land cards with there's another set down here. Something called Mystic Archives. So yeah, when we get back, I'm gonna just do a quick video on the land cards, and then we'll go into the Mystic Archive. So as usual, you guys are fantastic. My name is Mr. Quintastic, and I'll be back shortly. Ayo, hello Fantastics, it's Mr. Clintastic, and I am back with a Strixhaven School of Mages limited review where I discuss the cards in relation to draft and sealed. So far we've covered the monocolored spells, the multicolored spells, the artifacts, the colorless spells, and the MDFCs. Now we're going to go over the lands. There's not many, so this is going to be pretty quick. Once we cover the lands, we're going to take a short break and come back and go over the Mystic Archive cards. And from what I understand, there's going to be a Mystic Archive card in each Strixhaven pack. From what I understand, it's the hidden section of the library that the school doesn't want the students to go in. So yeah, if you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to help my channel grow in the future. And if you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section below. You can find my other videos on YouTube and Facebook, and you can also watch my VODs on Twitch. So let's jump right in. First we have Access Tunnel. Land, tap it, get a colorless. Pay 3, tap, target creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. Ooh-wee. So if you're only running 2 colors, which in this format I think 2 to 3 colors maybe is going to be wise. More if you can, but I don't know if it's going to be as easy to throw together 5 colors as it was in Kaldheim with 5 color snow. But this can easily make any of your creatures threats for 3 mana. I like it a lot. I'm going to give it a 3.5 as far as playability, especially if you're only in a 2-color deck. Next we have Archway Commons. ETBs tapped. When the ETBs, sacrifice it unless you pay 1. Add a mana of any color. So I was discussing earlier, I really think this is going to be a 2 to 3 plus color format with so many options of multicolored spells. Archway Commons is great, especially to be a common card. You have to pay 1, but I think you'll want to run 2, maybe 3 copies of this in your 3-color deck. I'm giving it a 3.5. And as a reminder for those who are new to my content, I rate the cards on a 1 to 5 scale, 3 being average, 1 being boo-boo, 5 being absolute bomb. So typically I go from 3 up if it's average and better, 3 down if it's average and below. Next we have the Biblioplex. Land, gold rare, add a colorless land, pay 2 tap, look at the top card of your library. If it's an instant or sorcery card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put the card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. Activate only if you have exactly 0 or 7 cards in hand. So you'll probably just want 1 copy of this. I'm going to give this a 2, right above playable. The fact that you have to have 0 or 7 cards in hand is pretty fishy and may not happen too often. I don't think it's totally unplayable, but it's not something I'm going to be looking at immediately. Next we have Frostboil Snarl. As Frostboil Snarl ETBs, you may reveal an island or mountain card from your hand. If you don't, it ETBs tapped, add blue or red. So I like cards like this because this can come down untapped as long as you have a island or mountain in your hand. Fast mana. I like it a lot. I'm giving it a 3.5. Same with Fury Calm Snarl. It's the red-white version. As long as you reveal a mountain or a plains, you can put this on the battlefield untapped. I'm giving it a 3.5. Next we have Hall of Oracles. Add a colorless, pay 1, tap, add 1 mana of any color. That's relevant. Tap, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. I'm going to give this a 3. I like it. I don't like that you have to pay a mana every time you want to get a mana of any color. I'd rather sacrifice my mana coming in tapped for a turn and then being able to be any color for the rest of the game than having to pay an extra mana. But that's just me. I think this is totally playable. And you can potentially put 1/1 counters on your creatures. It might be a 3.25 card, but I think it really just depends on the format. I'm going to give it a 3 for now. Lorehold Campus. ETB's tapped. Add red or white. And you can pay 4, tap, scry 1. I'm going to give this a 3.25. It's a red or white land, and you can pay 4 to scry, which can be relevant. You might want to run 2 or 3 of these in your Boros deck if you're running 17 lands or so. And that scry ability late can really be valuable, especially on a land. Necro Blossom Snarl, a land. As it ETBs, you may reveal a swamp or forest from your hand. If you don't, it ETBs tapped, gives yourself a green or black. So all of these abilities are going to definitely get 3.5, so just really good. Prismari Campus has the same ability as Lorehold Campus and Quandrix Campus and Silverquill Campus. They all give their respective colors. They all come in tapped, and they all scry 1. And I'm giving them all the 3.25. I don't like that they come in tapped undeniably, but I do like that they offer both of their colors. And I like that late game that they can be used to scry. I think that's going to be very beneficial. And I like all the snarls too. I think all the snarls are 3.5s for their respective colors. Necro Blossom, Shine Shadow, Vine Glimmer. I think those are all really good, especially they can be fast lands just by revealing the appropriate land out of your hand. So I like having all these. I think, let's see, I really like Archway Commons. I think that's going to be really useful in this format. Boros looks to be really powerful, so I think Fury Calm Snarl and Lorehold Campus are going to be good picks for you for your Boros deck. I think Green Black is looking pretty good too. So this is probably where I'm going to start my basis for my archetype guide, is with the availability of lands. We got green blue, we got white black, we got red blue. Then we got pretty much every color we need. Yeah. So we're going to see. I'm going to have to start developing my archetype guide across the next couple days, where I'll be going over what decks I think will be best to try to construct in Limited. And yeah, and so this isn't the end of the set, even though we've wrapped up everything that you would think would be from Strixhaven. They are also releasing a set known as the Mystic Archives, a part of the library of Strixhaven, with old spells. So yeah, when we return, we'll be going over the Mystic Archive cards. I'll probably take a 5 to 10 minute break here. I've been talking for a couple hours trying to get these videos complete and uploaded. These Japanese arts look amazing. But once again, if you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Help my channel grow in the future. Be sure to comment. And as always, you guys are fantastic. My name is Mr. Clintastic, and I'll return shortly. Ayo! Hello, Fantastics. It's Mr. Clintastic here with a Strixhaven limited review. So far, we've gone over pretty much the entirety of the whole set. We've gone over the monocolored cards, we've gone over the multicolored cards, the artifacts, the colorless, the lands, the MDFCs. But